One of the most nerve-wracking things I tackled in the move from being a hobby potter at a community studio to setting up a business out of my home was purchasing and operating a kiln. It's really intimidating. I didn't know what size to get, what brand, where I should put it in the house. So many questions if you've never had a kiln before. In this video, I'm going to show you the kiln I decided on and show you how much I can fit in it for a bisque firing and a glaze firing. My hope is that this is going to help you as you decide what kind of kiln you're looking for. All those other kiln topics I'll leave for another day. Today, we're just looking at the size of the kiln. I ended up purchasing a Euclid R85 kiln. Euclid is made by Pottery Supply House in Ontario, and I have to say, I've heard great things about Art Kilns, which is also a Canadian brand, Skutt, which is made in the United States, and I already had the L&L Plug and Fire, which is a great little test kiln. Let me know if you want to see a review on that one. All of the kiln companies will confidently assert that they are the absolute best. But honestly, all the kilns I looked at came with the same controller, and they're basically the same thing. It's an insulated box with some wires in it. So it came down to the size of the kiln, the cost was a factor, and delivery time too. I was impatient. I wanted to get it quickly. My kiln is in a corner of our garage, and my husband has this crazy idea that he should be able to park his car in the garage. He's really set on it. So I needed to have a look at how much space I had in that corner of the garage, and keeping in mind the clearance between the kiln itself and the car or the walls, basically everything around it. You can check with the manufacturer of the kiln that you're looking at to find out what their recommended distance is. It usually seems to be 12 to 18 inches from the wall or anything flammable. So I got out the measuring tape, and in the end, all of my deliberation, and I was looking online. Art Kiln has some really great diagrams of how many pots you can fit in each one of their kilns, and I was doing all the studying. And in the end, it just came down to how much space I had in the garage, and I realized I was just going to have to live with the size of kiln I could put in there because I literally had nowhere else to put it. So that's recommendation number one. If you have a limited amount of space, just measure it and buy the kiln that will fit there. Make sure that you have it installed by a licensed electrician, and check with your insurance company before you buy one, because I discovered after I got mine that the house insurance company I was with at the time would not insure a property that had a kiln in it. Now, I was able to find other insurance, so everything's fine. I'm fully insured, but it was a little bit of stress that I really didn't need. So you can see here that I'm unloading a bisque firing. Essentially, a bisque firing is going to fit about twice as much as your glaze firings. So each bisque firing will give you 2 glaze firings. That's because in the bisque fire, you can stack things right on top of each other. There's no glaze. They're not going to stick to each other. So you can just cram more in there. Now, I will also say that I have seen potters fit much, much, much more into their bisque loads than I have here. I get a little nervous at a certain point when I've stacked a certain number of things up. And even though I've seen other people do this in their kilns and fit much more in there and do the tumble stacking, I just don't have the courage to do it. So what you see here is, I would say, a reasonable bisque load, but certainly you could, if you were ambitious and really wanted to Tetris it and are less clumsy than I am, because I keep cracking the bisque if I try and load it in too closely, you can probably fit a lot more in. But this is what I got out of this particular bisque firing. The R85 kiln has a chamber in it that's about 17.5 inches wide by 22.5 inches high. So by the chamber, I mean the space where all your stuff goes to be fired. So it's very similar to the Skutt 822 or the Art 1822, I think it is, if you're looking for comparisons. It's a really common size, I think, for somebody that is not deep into production. It has turned out to be a great size for me. Essentially, your limitation is going to be the width of the kiln. So if I have something particularly wide, it has to go on the top shelf of the kiln because the kiln posts eat up some of the space that you have. So for example, if you have a large bowl and it is 16 inches wide, you're not going to be able to fit that in with the posts around it. So keep that in mind when you're making a decision about what size kiln you want to get. What is the maximum size of product that you want to be able to fire? Okay, I'm going to do the kiln unloading part of this video a little bit differently. I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of each shelf that I've gotten here. Now this one, I will say, if I had another layer of something like spoon rest that was quite low, quite, short and wide kind of thing, I would have squeezed another shelf in here, but I didn't. So you actually could fit a little bit more than this load has in it. But let's have a look at what we've got. So we've got two fairly large jars here. This is a jar and this is a Butterbell. We have a ghost because it's October. Two soap dispensers. And so this layer, I had a lot of challenges fitting everything in. And so here's what I did. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. Some people will swear that you're going to destroy your pieces. I have had no problems at all doing that so far. And I do know that Florian Gadsby does the same thing. So I put pieces on kiln posts. And what that does is it helps raise it up. So you can see here, if I was putting this flat, like it gets dangerously close there and dangerously close over here. So it just gave a little bit more breathing room to have it lifted up and then have a bit of clearance between those two. So I was able to scoot it in just a little bit. So let me put this back. I did the same thing with this mug. So on level 1, we have a Butterbell, a jar, 2 soap dispensers, a giant mug, a ghost, and that was just a little thing that I was playing with for markets. Anyway, not important. But there you go. That's what's on the first level of this kiln load. Okay, I've got you on a tripod now so you don't have to deal with a shaky cam anymore. So here's the next level down of this kiln. We've got a large bowl, 3 mugs, and a ring holder that seems to have crawled. Anyway, that's okay. It was just a fun little thing I was testing. I've never made one of these before. And this is Mako Nimbus over the dipping version of Snow Celadon. So clearly, Amico's dipping glazes often do this, where if you put something on top of it, it'll crawl. So it was absolutely an experiment. And I might throw a little more Nimbus on there. Actually, I might go do that right now while it's warm and refire it with the next load. Okay, we're back. This was a refire because it was all pinholy. It is still all pinholy. I don't know what's going on with my sangria, but this one will hold some, I don't know, toothbrushes or something. Well, it's too bad because as a mug, it was really solid. It was a great shape. The decoration went on well the first time around. Anyway, you can't win them all. You really can't win them all. I made 3 of these and I don't like any of them. However, I will say the Laguna Power Turquoise is its usual gorgeous self here. Beautiful. I'll throw that in the freezer and give it a stress test and make sure it's suitable for use, but I like it. and a bowl. Turned out lovely. Awesome. Doing a market this weekend. I will take this one to that market. I didn't glaze the bottom of this one. I know you're here for the kiln information and not the glaze information, but we're into ceramics, so we're all glaze nerds, right? So I had not waxed this, thinking that I would dip this bowl into something translucent, which I didn't do. I dipped it into powder turquoise, so then you couldn't see any of this stuff. So I wiped it all back, and then it looked horrible and messy because it never comes out of all the spots. So I put some cerulean celadon from Spectrum over top of it. It's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't do it deliberately, but it's okay. You know, every time I do a kiln load, so I do one bisque will give me about 2 kiln loads worth of glaze firing. And every time I do the glaze firing, there's one glaze firing that works out beautifully, which was the last one. And then there's one that's, you know, it's got some good stuff, but it's, got some not so good stuff. Anyway, that's this one. So that last shelf also overfired. This one really underfired. Yeah. I don't know what that means. All right. So on this shelf, we have 4 spoon rests. I will say, and I'll put a video of this over top, I have done this and gotten 2, 4, 6, 7 spoon rests, I think it was. Anyway, I'll overlay the video so you can see it. So you definitely can get a decent amount of spoon rests on here. And then, you know, these risers are quite tall. The last time I just had 2-inch risers and then another shelf. What I am given to understand is that you want to make sure that each shelf can kind of see a coil so that there is heat coming out from that coil to that shelf. I don't know if that's true or not, but people say it a lot, so who knows. Anyway, what do we have here? Ooh, this is Amethyst on Pottery Supply House 500. Yeah, 500. And I really like that. That's really pretty. I realized I was filming a glaze review for Amethyst just based on my experience with Amethyst, and I realized that I had not tested it on red clay. So this little bowl will show up in that review, but you have a sneak peek of it here. You saw it here first, folks. These are, a couple of little bowls. They were, oh dear, they were hand-built and single fire, just because I needed something else to fill that space in the kiln. This one's okay. This one obviously did not work out so well. Hand building and I are not the best of friends. It's too bad because it is otherwise very cute, but it is very not circular. This one's adorable. And I won't say anything more about those because they're a gift. And these guys, if you're wondering, are glazed in Amico's Wasabi Celadon. If you're on the hunt for your very first kiln, I hope this video has been helpful to you. I hope that the information I've given you has been something new, something informative, and that seeing what actually fits into a specific size of kiln has helped you kind of wrap your head around whether or not the size of kiln that I have would be big enough for you, or if you're really looking for something a little bit bigger. If you have other questions about owning a kiln that I didn't answer in this video, feel free to pop them down in the comments. I do read the comments and try to reply to all of them. And with that, thanks for watching.